Hello, hello, and welcome to week 6. um, we've had 3 clay workshops and 2 drawing workshops, which have been light on light and dark on dark. So now we're looking at taking the paint and bringing some colour in there. So I've set up here 3 little Moroccan bowls, and I have them on a little kind of just a board with a bit of tablecloth on there, so I've got a different kind of texture. I was going to do something really bright in the background, but then I thought it might take away from the simple colours that are in there, so that's what I've done. Up until now I've always used daylight, but for several reasons. I've got I'll just turn it around. I've got can you see it? A light that I have just there. And these are all on a turntable. And I've put the light in a direction there, hopefully in a way where you can see what I'm drawing and also what I'm painting, and also up there. Now, painting, I'll do the disclaimer now. Painting is not necessarily the thing that I think is my biggest strength, but, I just think that it's always nice to have a play at kind of everything, really, because there's a pleasure in doing it, even if it's not the thing that you do best. So that's my kind of take on this. Whereas I think everybody kind of has things that they like doing best. Right. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to look at the kind of placement. I've done the little drawing of these little stacking pots before I turn the video on, because you've kind of already done that kind of thing with me. So I'm looking now at putting in the kind of area where they're sitting on. So all I've done is I'm using exactly the same colours that you guys have, which are those ones in the packs I gave you. I've got my piece of paper, which is the watercolour paper, which you should have 4 pieces in your pack for working on. So use that, and I just have used little bits of sellotape just to keep the 4 corners down and flat. When we're all together, I would normally use masking tape all the way around. That just gives you something to kind of have it, what would you say, have it kind of stuck down, stop it moving around. So what I've done is I've taken the largest of the brushes that I have, which is a number 10, and I've just mixed a tiny bit of black. Now we all know I'm a big one to go, oh no, don't use the black, use the Payne's grey, because the Payne's grey is a more natural colour than the harsh black, but we don't have that, so we're making do the best we can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the kind of line where this is sitting on, just with the paint. So I'm looking here a little bit more, I think, in there, just mixed a bit. I'm always hesitant to go in too heavy early on. Yeah, that's fine, I can see that. So I'm going to about there and just coming out like that, and this is going to give me my perspective and draw the eye in there. So I'm coming across to the other side, same distance roughly to there, and I'm coming out, same kind of thing. Now I'm just wanting to put in a little bit of texture to kind of get a feel of what's happening on here. So I'm going to leave a lot of it white, but I'm just wanting to put in a little bit of kind of feel of the cloth underneath there. So I'm using mostly that watered down grey, and just kind of giving it a little bit of the kind of texture of the paper. No, it's not paper, texture of the cloth. just for something. I'm just going to have a nice clean one here and just wash that off there. I'll come back to this surface again, but I just wanted something to kind of ground me as to where I am with things. Okay, and this background, I've got this kind of earthy, putty kind of colour. So I'm just going to use the kind of brown that was in that mixed in with some water. So at the moment it's very watercolory kind of, but we'll make these stand out more strongly. So I want this to be really quite kind of watery, but I also want to make sure that I don't leave lots of lines, because I do want it to be really quite smooth, and I also want it not to drip down onto this bit. I want to make sure that that stays nice and clean. So I'm coming right down to that line and there. Come back for a bit more colour. To be honest, I would also like to do this flat, so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm doing it where it's I'm standing it up kind of 45 to 90 degrees. Well, it says more or less 90 degrees. But I think if I was doing it myself, I would have it flat. And I also want this side to be a little fuller in colour. So I'm just going to build that up. And I've just used water, plain water there, to come back to that. Because as I told you earlier, I don't really want a line on there. So just using. But I do want a little bit of movement in there. So I want it to feel, quite a kind of parchmenty feel to it. Okay, I'm just going to build up here just that little bit more. I'm just going to make that line. So that's a little bit stronger, and I'm just disappearing it into the rest of it, and it feels more natural that way. But I'm also, what it's doing is it's giving me a nice crisp line. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, just taking a little bit stronger. Does seem a bit daft to spend a lot of time on the background, I'm sure, because you just want to get on with it and get onto, the rest of it. However, it is important. It's important because if your background is fairly sorted, it gives you a great basis then. It's kind of like the foundations of what you're doing. So I'm just leaning that back just so personally I can see it a bit better around that area. Okay, so what I would normally do, what I would like to do would be to let that dry off, but I want to do this video in one hit. So what I'm going to look at now is what's happening here. My gut feeling is that I'm going to do the 3 different colours, and then I'm going to come back and do the silvery bits that are on there, which are a bit tarnished as well, so I'm going to try and capture that. So what I've done is I've taken out a bit of orange and also a bit of red, and I'm going to start that at the bottom in a watery way to start with. I'm going to try and lift this up so that you can see my palette. Okay, so here's the palette, And I've got the orange here, and I've just kind of put a little bit of water in there so it's a little bit more runny. And my plan is that I'll build on top and on top and on top until we get what we want, because the great thing about these acrylic paints is that that you can go on top of them and they will block out the color that's underneath. So I want some orangey red bits in some places and then some really dark red bits in other places. So what I'm doing as well is I'm using the old trusty squinty technique that has become a little bit of a standard for us, just in terms of looking at where the light and the dark is. So I'm going, I know, I can hear some of you saying, but Karen, it's red and you're using orange, and I would agree with you generally, but and I'm not too worried about this charcoal bit, to be honest. It's part of the drawing, it's part of the process, and it will disappear later on, I'm sure. Not because I'm trying to disappear it, but just because as part of the process it will just kind of disappear. So I'm not worried about it. You can't focus on things like that, just kind of get on with it. So I'm just going to go a little bit higher, because I think what I've left there for that kind of for the it looked a little bit thick on the kind of rim, and anyway I can make it a bit thicker if I want to, but I would find it more difficult to get the colour in. So get there. Okay, gonna look at the red now. Take the orange off my brush. Just go for a bit of red. I'm gonna go for some of the red here. You know, you are kind of limited to what your palette of colors are, so you know you're not going to get exactly what's in front of you. All you can do is do the best with what you've got. So taking some of that red. I'm just going to take a lot of the colour off my brush so it's much lighter, because I'm going to do more of a kind of just a wash on top of there. See, okay, so we are red. Oh, we are red, but we're a much lighter red. And I'm going to come back with this with white afterwards in certain areas, but you can see that we have a much lighter colour on one area than on the other. Okay, so a little bit of Payne's grey on that red. Gonna take a bit of, well, would be Payne's grey, so it's a black, and that's not enough, so I'm just gonna take another bit into there, mix that around. I'm going to use that quite dark in there. Again, it probably would benefit from being a bit drier, but I'm just going to, you know, play with it as we go. Going to go a bit darker again, because that really is very much in shadow. Just in that. And we are here. And underneath. And what I want is just to get that shadow here. To get the roundness. Okay, so a bit more shadow all the way underneath here. And I'd say just a little bit underneath the rim. I'll come back to that, and there will be more dark actually in there. I'd like it to be drier. I'm just going to leave that for the minute, but I am coming back because in my mind it's only halfway done. Okay, so parking that, looking into the grey. So the grey, I'm just going to have a lovely, lovely off-white. Now I am lucky enough to have 2 palettes here, which I'm going to use, but what I would suggest that you use at home is just a couple of saucers. That would work really, really well. So I've just got some white that I've taken into one of the little dips, and I'm taking a teeny weeny bit of grey, sorry, black, to make a very, very, very light grey that I'm coming to here with. And I'm just going to bring that in there. And again, just thinking about how thick that band of kind of silvery bit is. So that's looking pretty good. And we've got a nice kind of rounded line there, which is nice. So I'm quite happy with that colour. And now I'm going to keep what I've just been using, but I'm going to add more dark into it, quite a bit more dark, black even, to use a proper word, black. And I'm coming right to here. I could even go darker than that. Okay, now what I could do is, let's take this other one. This is just a dry one. So this is completely dry. And what I'm going to do is just dab at it so that I'm getting a much softer gradient where they both meet, and that's much softer and much nicer. It wouldn't have worked with the wet one, so using the dry one, that's I'm very happy with that. I am going to get a little bit more dark again, mix it in, black even, sorry. I just talk a lot about dark and light, and I'm going to go, because there are even some areas that are even darker. I'm going to take the dry brush again and just stipple it, give it just that little bit of softness. So it's just giving me a lot more. What I am finding though is, now that I've put those dark bits in, I can see that actually this middle area here is darker than there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build another layer of grey, a bit darker, so it's in between that, and put that there. So I'm just going to mix, see what I've got out of that lot, and just go back to my white and just create another grey, which hopefully that'll be. Just look at that. I'm not happy with that. And another one again. Try that. Yeah, that's what you want. I'm just coming to about there. And guess what? Yep, you're right. Dry brush. It's going to soften that. Oh, now my dry brush is still got the dirt from the other one, so I'm just going to go. Oh. Okay, what am I going to do about that? I'm going to use my finger. Yay! If in doubt, have a go with your finger. Okay, so I'm just going to dab that up there, and I'm happy with that. That's fine, absolutely fine. Okay, so looking at the green, and when I've done the green, I'm happy with the grey, but I will be coming back to the red. So I'll just wash my brush out. Okay, green. Now the green that's in the thing here is quite a light limey green. So let's see how that's going to look, just with the base kind of colour on there. And the inside's going to be really dark. So quite good, really. Quite good in the colour, actually. Surprisingly, I didn't think it was going to be quite so good. Okay. Just blocking that colour in, really. A bit more green. Now you can choose anything from your own home to do, but what I would say is don't overcomplicate it. Just keep things simple. If you're feeling adventurous, I'm delighted for you. But what you do need to do is get the basics in right first of all. So do choose something simple to begin with, and then after that, by all means, move on to something else. Now I just want to, yeah, there's enough green on there. I'm just going to bring it just ever so slightly lower. There, that's fine. Just bring that in. So again, we can see that we are a lot darker. Let's bring that into an edge there. We're a lot darker on this side than we are with that. So I'm not going to use the black, I'm going to use the blue. So I'm going, if it doesn't work, I might put some, yeah, blue's great. But I will put some black into it as well. So if I squint, I can see that the brightest part is around here. We have a darker bit, which is more of a reflection up on the top here, which feels a bit odd to be putting in, but I can see it. And generally, if you can see it, then you're absolutely right to put it in, because if you don't, it sometimes can just look wrong. So good to go with what you can see. Just bringing that under there, and I'm going to put some of the black, if I can see it. Can't even see in there. I think it's that one. Yeah, lovely, black into the blue. I'm just going to disappear that underneath there. And now I'm going neat black, getting very racy. Let's see what we've got on this one. That's fairly dry, so I'm just going to, that again, dry brush, just using the dry brush on there, just dabbing at it, just softening off what's on there. Okay, I'm happy with that, but I'm going to go the inside, which is absolutely dark, dark, dark. So, but I'm going to take the green and I'm going to mix the green straight in with some of the black so that I get a really dark, and I can't see any light in there except for a tiny bit of shadow bouncing off of there. So I'm looking at fairly crisp, actually all the way up to fairly much to the top. It's just because of the position of the light, because it's not going into it, it's kind of underneath it a little bit. So take that in there. I've dipped down a little bit there, but I can rectify that later. I have to say I am kind of painting this in the dark at this stage. But anyway, we're doing all right, so that's the main thing. And it's always good to have a little old challenge here and there now and then. Okay, so I'm just looking at this here and thinking that looks very strange. So I'm just going to curve that a little bit. Yeah, that's better. That ellipse here is looking a lot sharper. There we go. Okay, so now I'm coming back to the red, and then we'll start working on shadows and the other kind of silvery bits. So how are we doing? 26 minutes. I'm not going to beat my 35-minute time, I think, or 32 was my worst. Well, not worst, longest one. Okay, less chat. Karen, more action. I'm coming back down here. I'm going to take a smaller brush. This is one of the little ones. What is it? I would use something a bit bigger than this, to be honest with you. But I'm just going to go with it because I think I want something. No, I'm going to. Oh, honestly, I can't make up my mind at the moment. I'm going to use the bigger one for here, and I'm going to use the smaller one for in here for detail. Right, so coming back to the red. So the red, and I'm going to take some of the black and the red there, mix that in, and come back to here, nice and sharp. That's better. It's kind of covering the whole area, whereas it was too wet earlier to take that. I am a bit worried though, because the shape of this seems a bit banjaxed, but I think I'm going to go straight down. That's it. And I'll move that over there a little bit. Okay. It is very dark. This is where I'd be saying, oh, just give me the Payne's grey. But I'm not going to moan on about it. Well, not that much. Okay, and I need a nice bit of fresh red. The water's getting a bit muddy. Oh yeah, I've got other water here. Sorry if that's annoying you. Okay, a little bit of fresh red here. So this nice bit underneath. Nice and fresh. And Oh, the red one. Not happy at all with the red one. Not in the slightest. So I'm going to leave that and come back to it. Hang on a minute, 1 second. I'm just going to get my water refreshed. Okie dokie. Yeah. Oh dear. Pains me to look at it. I'm just going to take some of the red though on the other side, some of this orange, and mix it with some red and just balance up the other side. Very orangey red. Okay, right, Karen, stop fiddling with that bit and look at something else. Okay, so the something else is going to be the grey areas here. So I'm going to take my white and some of my pale grey that I've already been kind of playing with. I may need to get some more white out shortly. So my first thing is I'm just going to place this in. So that I've got some kind of basic whitey grey to start with. And then I will come at that with the smaller brush. Okay, smaller brush. Bit of water, a little bit of the grey and some detail on there. Bit of darker grey on there. I'm not going to worry myself too much with this. I can see some really tiny beading. I'm not going to play with that. Because otherwise this video would go on and on and on and on. But I do want the feeling of it being kind of pewter and, well, whatever. What is it? It's probably, it has a kind of leathery, not leather, it has an aluminium kind of feel to it. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to take a really dark one for around here. Into the black. So I don't know whether you can see, but sometimes I hold my hands like this. I don't know whether it comes from clay work, but sometimes I find if I'm just like that, it doesn't feel quite so supported. And so sometimes, like, I'm leaning on the box that I have this on, and I have my hands like that, and it's just to give me some steadiness. Other people use a thing like this where there's a little kind of pointy what would you say, a little kind of buffer on the end, so you can lean on it like that, and then you can lean on it like that. You'll see them on the painting challenge and things like that. So anyway, in this particular thing, this is what I'm doing. Right, that's okay. More kind of coming over in some areas than there are others. A little bit of underneath here. Little bits of areas where it could have some white back on it, just plain white, like here. And a little bit on there. but I'd probably be best to come back with that a little bit later. Okay, let's just get the other ones in. What are we on? 35 minutes. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to continue on them because I've shown you what to do there. What I'm going to do is just look at the shadow and put that in, because otherwise you're going to have this going on forever and ever. So let's look at the shadow. The shadow is going out like that, and actually we're getting a really nice silhouette on here. So that's quite interesting, and it's literally at the corner of that board. So it gives us something really strong to kind of bounce that off. So let's do that. What I might try and do, just to show you how to try and rescue something, is I might come back and have another stab at this when it's dried off a little bit. And actually, while my paintbrush has still got some of that grey and white, what I might do is just put that on the bottom. Nice kind of silvery grey, because I will be playing with the shadow at the bottom, so quite good to get that in and on. And it also takes away some of that charcoal kind of ness of it. I would say it's a bit thick on there, but so what am I going to do about that? I'm going to put some of the red a little bit further down. So yeah. That's better. But I'm getting a little bit of a drip on there, so I just need to be a bit careful that I don't lose that completely. Okay. I think it's important, you know, that you guys see that I struggle with some things. Yeah, maybe a lot of things. You know, because you can't do everything. That's important to remember. Okay, a little bit of white along here, and a little bit here, just where the light is, a little bit of here as well. And you can see that's already kind of picking that up. What I shouldn't have done is just made it go quite that long, so it's just the white is on there rather than there, because that's where it is. Okay, I was talking shadow, wasn't I? Okay, so we're back to that kind of very watery kind of grey that we were talking ages ago. So I'm going to just, oh, I think I've got some green in here. Green, do I want green? No, actually, that's quite a kind of dirty, I'm going to go with that. That looks quite nice. Okay, so underneath here I can see that my shadow, oh, I need to get that drip up. My shadow is kind of going like that. And I've got, this is very watery, so I'm just going to try and take that off, bring it back. We don't want to drip, because that's going to ruin our shadow line. So just putting that in, and I will build it up so it's a bit stronger than it is at the moment. That's okay. So from where I am, I'm looking at shadow going all the way up to there in a fairly straight line. Kind of, it's in this nice block. Bringing it right close. There needs to be absolutely no gap. None at all between the two of them. Okay, that's looking good. Okay, so we have it nice and sharp on there. There. And now we're going even darker up there. So I'm going to back to that kind of beigey colour, and I'm going to take the black and put some of that beigey colour in so that it's and make sure that it's not too wet. So this is going to be interesting. Okay, so I need to see where it comes, and actually there's a little